When you watch President Trump on TV, how does he make you feel?
Privileged.
Privileged.
Like to be able to be alive when he was president.
This month, we were in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, with 11 Obama-Trump swing voters. Our focus group this month took place just a few days after President Trump issued an order to attack Iranian General Soleimani. And I wanted to know what they thought about that attack and whether they were supportive of the president.
To let them know that we're not going to sit here and just have you kill our people for no apparent reason.
Just respect his decision. He's our president. He knows more than we know.
You're supporting the president. You think it was the right thing for him to do. If this leads to an all-out war, you might start questioning the wisdom of the president's decision. Mm-hmm. Am I reading that correctly? Joe, is that you?
Yeah, I went from around an 8 to a 0. That's depending on if we trust the information that he's giving us, if he's, or is this a stunt for him because of the impeachment? If we were all at war, that means his information wasn't clear and he was doing it for self-indulgent purposes, I would say. And if that was the case, then he deserved to be president. It's not a time to be playing with basically the fate of the world.
If things go great and the president had exactly the outcome that he intended, how many of you would say that's a really good reason to vote for his re-election this year? Show of hands.
Oh, the
outcome is excellent.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If the outcome is dreadful, worst case scenario you can imagine. How many of you would hold that against him in the voting booth in November? 3 or 4 of you.
I won't.
Okay.
Tired. 50 years of war. It's time that we concentrate on home and instead of on all these other situations.
All right. So Don, you're supportive of his action or you're not supportive of
I'm
his
supportive of his actions if his people had advised him that that was the thing to do. That's a question mark.
Okay.
But how many more wars are we going to go through?
It was clear from the respondents in Wilkes-Barre that they are opposed to impeachment. But what was also clear was that they wanted to be a fair trial. 1, that there are witnesses called, and 2, very important, they need the senators to act as unbiased jurors. When it comes to witnesses, we saw that having them is important, and that was clear in the response to a comment made by Amy Klobuchar in the most recent Democratic debate. We dial tested that moment to moment, and you'll see the reaction with the lines rising in this clip.
Richard Nixon had his top people testify. We should be hearing from Mulvaney, who is the one, under oath, witnesses have said that Mulvaney is the one that said, okay, we're going to withhold this aid to a fledgling democracy to get dirt on a political opponent. We should hear from Bolton, who told his own staff to go see a lawyer after they met with the president.
I specifically asked the respondents about comments made by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
So Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said recently that he is coordinating impeachment strategy with the White House as the president's trial approaches, and that he is, quote, not an impartial juror, unquote.
It was a terrible statement to make publicly.
Why not?
He's proven that he's biased. He's working with the White House per se. He has to be impartial. That's what the Constitution says in this situation.
Because it's instigating, it's just looking for trouble.
How many of you think all 100 senators should walk into the room saying to themselves, you know what, my job is to be impartial? All of you did?
Yes.
Okay.
One thing that really surprised me is that there's not a lot of nostalgia for the Obama-Biden administration.
How many of you, at the end of Obama's 8 years, thought, you know what, I'm done with him? By show of hands, how many of you kind of felt that way? His campaigning this year, his running around America on behalf of the Democratic candidate, whoever happens to be, how much weight is that going to carry for you?
Zero.
Because Joe Biden is from Scranton, I thought that the folks in this part of Pennsylvania might be feeling some sort of particular affinity toward Vice President Biden.
Does anybody feel any particular warmth or affinity toward Joe Biden in this group? None of you. So what I'm hearing from you is there's no particular benefit to Joe Biden for being from Scranton, as far as you folks here in Wilkes-Barre are concerned.
Well, the reason why is the fact that he really spent, 8 years of his life? It was a very short period of time that he spent here.
That when he was born and then
he was born here and then he moved to Delaware, go somewhere else.
Exactly.
It's not like he spent his whole life here.
One takeaway about Mayor Bloomberg that we uncovered
He's doing it on his own. He's where he needs to form some sort of base of people who will support him. I don't see any ground support for him.
How would you feel about him if there were suddenly a groundswell of support? Would then being a billionaire be an asset to him or a liability?
I think still a liability.
You voted for a guy who's a billionaire, right? Why was that not good? Why was it good for him and not good for?
Because I was voting lesser of two evils, the way I looked at it at the time.
And for them, what Mayor Bloomberg needs to have to give him legitimacy despite all of his billions or because of all of his billions is that he has to show that there's a large following that he's generating as a result of spending all this money. As we've done for the last several months, we've been asking about rollbacks of environmental regulations. What we've done is we've asked, initially, how much respondents support or oppose the president's environmental rollbacks on a scale from 0 to 10. Then we ask about 17 specific rollbacks and how much they support each one on a scale from 0 to 10. And then we re-ask the initial questions about the rollbacks overall and their level of support. In Wilkes-Barre, the score was 4.0 on a 0 to 10 scale, so mild disapproval or disagreement with the rollbacks. Then we asked about each of the 17 rollbacks one at a time. None of them scored at 5 or higher. All of them were viewed negatively. Then we asked again about their overall support or opposition. The 4.0 dropped to 2.9.
Why didn't you like those rollbacks?
Because they affect our air and our water quality.
Which is causing illnesses, and we don't have great health insurance.
What was your reaction to seeing that list of 17 items?
Scary.
Disturbing.
It's greed. All the rollbacks are for the big companies so they can make more money. This is the basis of life that they're messing with.
For how many of you is this a voting issue in November?
That would be a voting issue for me, yeah.
We showed a variety of video clips from the most recent Democratic presidential debate. The one that scored highest among all of them was this clip from Mayor Buttigieg talking about income and that people need more income to get by.
People are not getting paid enough. That is not the result of some mysterious cosmic force. It's the result of bad policy. And
we also asked for the very first time about transgender issues. And Senator Warren actually had what was the lowest scoring dial test response among all the clips we showed.
And one thing that the President of the United States can do is lift up attention, lift up their voices, lift up their lives. Here's a promise I make. I will go to the Rose Garden once every year to read the names of transgender women, of people of color who have been killed in the past year. I will make sure that we read their names so that as a nation, we are forced to address the particular vulnerability.
Why did so many of you react so negatively to what she said?
I'd like to answer it.
Joe?
I think it's like a non-issue because my math could be wrong. I don't mean to offend anyone, but the percentage of transgenders is something like 0.7% or something like that. And I think the extreme liberals are taking this as a point to make themselves look better when it's really a non-issue. I understand there's issues that go on, but to take that and make that one of the main issues, they could be focusing that attention on something else. I'm not saying discredit everything that they're, that's being done to these poor people, but to make that an issue when there's so much more going wrong in this country that they could actually help quicker,
I believe everybody has the right to do whatever they feel they need to do. But to impose the sanctions that a transgender person, no matter which gender they've wound up as, is going to have the rights to go into the same bathroom facilities. I've raised a passel full of young women, and I certainly wouldn't want any of my girls to have to be in that situation where they're trying to use the facilities, and here comes somebody who's not a woman. And don't get me wrong, one of my daughters is a lesbian, but to take away that arbitrary situation and say, you have to endure this because that makes everybody equal, I'm not going to subject my girls to that.
And it really demonstrates the gap between how people on the progressive left look at this issue and how the swing voters that we interviewed in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, look at these issues.
We will continue to track how enthusiasm for the candidates picks up steam in the months to come. You can get our monthly Swing Voter Insights report delivered to you by signing up at engageus.com/swingvoters. And you can subscribe to Engagious on YouTube to get notified when fresh results become available each month.